The unexpected arrival. It was a quiet morning on Earth. The sun rose as usual, casting a warm glow over the cities and towns that sprawled across the planet. People were going about their daily lives, unaware that something unimaginable was about to happen. The calm routine of everyday life was about to be shattered. High above Earth, in the depths of space, an object appeared. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't a satellite. It was something far more advanced, something humanity had never seen before. A massive ship, sleek and dark, glided into Earth's orbit without warning. Its shape was unlike anything the humans had designed. It didn't resemble anything built by human hands, and that was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. The ship appeared suddenly, almost as if it had materialized out of thin air. Its presence was overwhelming. Scientists and government agencies scrambled to observe it, but the ship didn't send any signals, nor did it attempt to communicate. It just floated silently, a massive shadow against the backdrop of the stars. There was something eerie about it. Its smooth, metallic surface glinted in the sunlight, but it didn't seem to reflect the way other ships or objects in space would. It felt alive in some strange way. In the control room of Earth's main space station, Commander Lisa Adams stared at the live feed. Her fingers hovered over the controls, ready to act. "What is it?" she muttered under her breath, her voice barely audible. She had seen many things in her years in space, but nothing like this. Her instincts told her that this was no ordinary visitor. At first, the world didn't know what to think. Was it a military ship from another nation? Or maybe a new piece of technology humanity had never seen before? But no one could make sense of the strange object. It was too large, too alien. No country on Earth could have built it. As the ship hovered, the world's leaders and military experts debated what to do. Messages were sent out, asking for communication. The people on Earth waited nervously, eyes glued to the news stations and monitors. The tension in the air was palpable. Would the ship make contact? Was it friendly? Or were they facing a threat from beyond the stars? Hours passed. The ship did not move. It was as if it was waiting, watching Earth from above. Then, just as people began to lose hope of receiving any information, a signal was detected. It was a transmission, but not like any message the world had ever received before. The transmission was a simple series of words, broadcast on every frequency possible. It echoed through every communication channel on Earth. It was clear. It was cold. It was terrifying. Humanity's dark past is waking. Your time is running out. The words sent a shockwave through the world. What did they mean? Who sent this message? And what was this dark past the transmission referred to? The words sent shivers down the spines of millions. The planet was thrown into chaos. Governments scrambled to respond. No one had expected this. What did it all mean? Lisa stared at the screen in disbelief. She could hear the urgency in the voices around her, but she couldn't take her eyes off the words that flashed across the screen. Humanity's dark past is waking, she repeated aloud. She wasn't sure what it meant, but she knew one thing for certain. It wasn't a good sign. The ship remained silent after the transmission. For hours, there was nothing. The eerie stillness was deafening. The world's attention remained fixed on the mysterious object in the sky. Experts analyzed the message, but no one could decipher its true meaning. It didn't seem like a warning. It was more like a statement, a declaration that something terrible was about to unfold. Across the globe, people began to fear the worst. Some thought it was an alien species coming to destroy humanity. Others believed it could be a warning about a natural disaster, a cataclysm of some kind. But the message made no mention of natural events. It spoke of a dark past and the waking of something long forgotten. Lisa's heart raced as she thought about the message. What could it mean? Had humanity done something so terrible, so unforgivable, that the universe itself had come to deliver justice? She didn't have answers. No one did. The night passed, and the ship remained in orbit, unmoving, silent. The world could only watch and wait. What would happen next? Would there be more messages? Would the ship make its move? Was this the beginning of something worse? The fear and uncertainty were beginning to settle in. People all over the world were starting to talk. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Some believed the ship was here to conquer Earth. Others thought it was humanity's past mistakes coming back to haunt them. But one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. The Earthbound authorities worked through the night, trying to devise a plan to communicate with the ship, but no one had any clue where to begin. The ship had not shown any signs of hostility, but neither had it shown any signs of friendship. The world waited for what would happen next. Would the ship remain a silent watcher, or would it take action? Would the dark past mentioned in the message reveal itself? And if so, what kind of horrors would it bring? For now, the world could only wait in silence, knowing that the answer might not come easily. Secrets beneath the surface. The days that followed the arrival of the mysterious ship were tense. The world was on edge, waiting for the next move from the silent giant that loomed above Earth. Governments from every corner of the globe were scrambling to respond, and every major space station was focused on trying to decipher the strange message that had been broadcast from the ship. It had been days since the warning, and still there was no contact. Commander Lisa Adams stood on the observation deck of the Earth Command Center, looking up at the darkened sky. The massive ship was still there, hanging in space like a watchful eye, waiting. The question everyone was asking remained unanswered. What did the message mean? Humanity's dark past is waking. Your time is running out. What did it want? And why was it here? Lisa turned away from the window. Her mind raced with possibilities. She had been in the military for over 15 years, and she had seen her fair share of strange occurrences, but nothing like this. The lack of information was maddening. No one had ever expected something like this to happen. The command room was filled with the constant hum of activity as various specialists worked around the clock. Scientists, linguists, military personnel, they all had their own theories. Some thought the ship was a threat from an alien race, while others believed it was a weapon from a long-lost civilization. Whatever it was, the ship was not behaving like anything the world had encountered before. "Commander, we have another message," said Lieutenant Carter, a young officer who had been working tirelessly on analyzing the signals from the ship. He held up a tablet, his face a mix of confusion and concern. "It's in a different code this time." Lisa stepped over, peering at the screen. The message was more complex than the previous one, a series of symbols that appeared to change and shift. It was a strange language, something that none of the world's top translators could recognize. "We need to decode it," Lisa said, trying to keep her composure. "But we can't afford to waste time." A few hours passed as the team worked to crack the code. The symbols were unlike anything seen in human languages. They seemed to twist, each letter bending and changing into a new form. It was as though the ship was playing with them, toying with their minds. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the code began to crack. The team stared in stunned silence as the message was revealed. "The horrors of your past have returned. You cannot escape them. Prepare yourselves." The words struck fear into everyone in the room. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "What does this mean?" she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "The horrors of your past," the message had said. Was it referring to something humanity had done long ago? Or was it speaking about something even older, something buried deep beneath the surface of Earth, long forgotten by time? Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a warning. This was something more. It felt like a prophecy, a dark revelation that would change everything. What kind of horrors could it be referring to? And how could they prepare for something so unknown? She tapped her earpiece, speaking to the rest of the team. "I need a full scan of Earth. I want to know if there are any signs of unusual activity, anything that could be related to this warning." Hours later, the results came in. There were reports of strange earthquakes, unusual weather patterns, and even sightings of strange creatures in remote areas of the planet. but nothing concrete. It was as if something was moving beneath the surface, but no one could pinpoint exactly what it was. Lisa felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She had to lead Earth's response to this unknown threat, but there was no clear direction. The ship still remained in orbit, watching, waiting. "Send out a team to investigate," Lisa commanded. "We need to know what's happening. If there's something beneath the surface, we need to find it before it finds us." The team moved quickly, preparing for a mission that would take them to some of the most remote and dangerous areas of the world. They were going to search for clues, to uncover whatever dark force was rising from the depths of humanity's forgotten past. As the mission teams prepared to depart, Lisa couldn't help but feel a deep sense of dread. She had no idea what they were about to face, but one thing was certain: the Earth would never be the same again. The awakening of the past. The team moved quickly, their preparations almost frantic. Commander Lisa Adams had never felt so uneasy. Every instinct told her something was off, but she couldn't put her finger on it. The more they uncovered, the more questions they had, and the fewer answers were appearing. The mission was set. A small, highly trained team of soldiers and scientists would investigate the strange reports coming from an underground facility deep in the mountains of Siberia. There had been rumors for years that the region held secrets, hidden beneath layers of ice and rock. But no one had ever dared to explore it. The team had gathered their equipment. Armed with the latest technology, they were prepared to face whatever dangers lay ahead. As their aircraft soared through the icy skies, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that they were being led into a trap. Whatever awaited them, it was as though they were being drawn into something far darker than they could imagine. The descent into the mountains was smooth, but the eerie silence was deafening. The team landed in a clearing surrounded by tall, jagged peaks that cast long shadows across the snow. The entrance to the facility was buried deep within a cave system, known only to a few, and it had been untouched for centuries. Until now. The team carefully made their way through the entrance, the air thick with an overwhelming sense of dread. The walls of the tunnel were made of ancient stone, covered in strange markings that no one could read. It felt like they were walking through a forgotten history, one that had been sealed away for a reason. "Stay alert," Lisa instructed, her voice low and steady. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." They ventured deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels, the flickering lights of their torches casting unsettling shadows on the walls. The further they went, the colder it became, and the air grew heavier. There was something down here, something that wasn't natural. As they reached the heart of the facility, they found it. An enormous chamber, filled with strange machinery and artifacts that seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. But what really caught their attention was the large, stone slab at the center of the room. Etched into the stone was a single word, a name that seemed familiar but impossible to place. HFY. The word reverberated through Lisa's mind, as if it were calling to her, urging her to understand. But nothing made sense. The slab was covered in strange symbols, many of which matched the ones they had seen in the messages from the alien ship. It was clear now. The messages were connected to this place. "This must be the source," whispered Dr. Mendez, the team's lead scientist. "This is where it all began." The air around them grew colder, and the hum of the machinery began to intensify. The walls seemed to shift, as though the room itself was alive, responding to their presence. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled, and a low guttural sound echoed through the chamber. Lisa's heart raced as she looked around, trying to locate the source of the noise. The slab began to glow, its symbols shifting and changing before her eyes. The room seemed to be alive with energy, and it was growing stronger by the second. "We need to leave now," Lisa shouted, but it was too late. With a loud crash, the stone slab shattered, revealing what lay beneath. It was not a weapon, not a piece of ancient technology, but something far more terrifying. A large metallic creature, its body covered in dark, smooth armor, emerged from the depths of the slab. Its eyes glowed with a sinister red light, and its presence was overwhelming. The team stumbled backward in shock, but they had no time to react. The creature's movements were swift and brutal. It reached out with long, spindly limbs, grabbing Dr. Mendez and pulling him into the darkness before anyone could stop it. "Get back!" Lisa screamed, raising her weapon, but the creature was too fast. It vanished into the shadows, leaving nothing but a chilling silence in its wake. The team was paralyzed with fear, unable to comprehend what had just happened. But Lisa's mind was racing. She had seen this before, on the ship. The alien messages, the symbols, the warnings, they all pointed to one thing. The horrors of humanity's past had awoken, and they weren't just warning them, they were coming for them. The unraveling truth. The atmosphere inside the chamber was thick with fear and uncertainty. Lisa's heart was racing as she tried to regain control of the situation. The creature that had emerged from the slab was unlike anything they had encountered before. Its strength and speed were beyond comprehension, and the way it disappeared into the shadows only deepened the mystery. "Dr. Mendez, he's gone," whispered one of the soldiers, his voice trembling. "What are we dealing with here, Commander?" Lisa took a deep breath and tried to steady her shaking hands. The last thing she wanted was to show weakness in front of her team, but the terror they all felt was palpable. They had come here to uncover answers, but they were now facing something that went beyond their understanding. "Focus," Lisa commanded, her voice firm despite the rising panic within her. "We need to get out of here and regroup. This place is too dangerous." The team reluctantly agreed, but as they turned to leave, the air shifted. The humming machinery in the background grew louder, and the walls seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. The tunnel behind them had changed, the entrance they had come through now blocked by an impenetrable force field of light, shimmering in the darkness. "We're trapped," one of the soldiers said, his voice growing more frantic by the second. "What is this? What's happening?" Lisa's mind raced, trying to find a solution. They were no longer just dealing with an alien presence. The entire facility seemed to have come alive, reacting to their intrusion. Whatever was hidden in this place had its own agenda, and it wasn't going to let them leave. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed from the depths of the chamber. The creature was back. "We need to move. Now," Lisa barked. The team hurried through the winding corridors, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The further they ventured, the more the sense of dread intensified. Every corner seemed to hold something waiting for them, something watching them, following them. The walls, once solid stone, now seemed to shift, their surfaces becoming slick and wet as though alive. Then, without warning, the ground trembled beneath them, and a deep guttural roar filled the air. The creature had found them. They turned a corner, and in the dim light, they saw it, its glowing red eyes fixed on them, its body massive and towering. It was even more horrifying than they had imagined, its black, metal-like skin shimmering in the darkness, like something born of nightmares. "Run!" Lisa screamed. They sprinted down the hallway, the creature's terrifying roar echoing in pursuit. Lisa's pulse pounded in her ears as she led the team through the maze of tunnels, praying they could find a way out before it was too late. But the walls were closing in on them, and the further they ran, the more the ground shook. Another loud crash reverberated behind them, and Lisa risked a glance over her shoulder. The creature was gaining on them, its monstrous claws tearing through the walls as if they were made of paper. It was unstoppable. "We need to get to the surface," Lisa shouted. "There has to be an exit somewhere." The team turned another corner, and to their relief, they found what appeared to be an elevator shaft. It was their last hope. They ran toward it, but just as they reached the opening, the creature burst from the shadows with a deafening screech, its claws swiping at the air. One of the soldiers, too slow to react, was caught in the creature's grasp. The rest of the team watched in horror as the creature dragged him into the darkness. "Go," Lisa ordered. "I'll hold it off." She didn't know if she could stop it, but there was no time to think. As the others climbed into the elevator, she stayed behind, her weapon aimed at the oncoming monster. The creature charged, its massive frame nearly filling the tunnel, its eyes glowing with an insatiable hunger. But Lisa wasn't about to give up. She fired, her shots hitting the creature. But it barely flinched. It was like shooting at a wall. The creature let out a chilling roar and lunged forward, its claws inches from Lisa. Just as the creature was about to strike, a massive explosion erupted behind her. The force of it sent Lisa flying forward, and the creature's roar was drowned out by the blast. Lisa slammed into the floor, disoriented but alive. When she regained her bearings, she saw that the others had managed to escape in the elevator. The explosion had cleared the path for them, but she wasn't sure how much time they had left. Lisa stumbled to her feet, trying to shake off the dizziness. The creature was gone, for now, but she knew it wouldn't be long before it was back, and it was only a matter of time before the truth came to light. The truth about what humanity had been hiding all these years. As the elevator began to rise, Lisa looked back toward the darkness of the underground facility. She could feel it, the evil that had been buried for so long, and now it was awake. Whatever had been unleashed, it wasn't done yet, and soon it would come for them all. The hunt begins. The elevator creaked to a halt, its sudden stop jarring Lisa's senses. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and the fear from the previous chase still clung to her like a shadow. She had barely escaped with her life, but the others were safe for now. The cold metal doors of the elevator opened, and Lisa quickly ushered the team out, her eyes scanning their surroundings with every step. They had emerged into a vast, underground complex, far deeper than they had originally anticipated. The air was thick with dust, the walls lined with strange markings and symbols that Lisa couldn't decipher. But there was no time to study them now. "Where are we?" one of the soldiers asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lisa didn't have an answer. They had been searching for the truth about the horrors hidden beneath the surface of this planet, but now that they were in the heart of it, she wasn't sure if they were ready to face what they had uncovered. "Stay close," she ordered, her voice steady, but filled with urgency. "We need to find out where that thing came from and how to stop it. We can't leave without answers." As they ventured further into the complex, they were met with more signs of the creature's presence. Walls had been torn apart, machinery was broken, and the corridors were filled with an ominous, almost palpable energy. Whatever force had created this creature had clearly left its mark on everything it touched. The group moved cautiously, Lisa leading the way as they made their way deeper into the labyrinth. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of malfunctioning lights overhead and the distant sound of something moving. Scraping, dragging, just out of sight. "Do you hear that?" one of the soldiers whispered, his voice shaky. Lisa's hand tightened around the grip of her weapon, her heart skipping a beat. She nodded, her gaze fixed on the darkened passage ahead. They weren't alone. The noise grew louder, and they could hear the unmistakable sound of claws scraping against the stone floors. The creature was close, too close. "Stay alert," Lisa muttered, her voice barely audible. "We need to find cover." They rushed into a nearby room, a small control room with dusty monitors and abandoned equipment. Lisa quickly shut the door behind them, and the team huddled together, trying to control their breathing. They had no idea what kind of creature they were dealing with, but they knew it was intelligent. It was hunting them. Lisa turned to the group, her mind racing. The thing they had encountered, its size, its strength, it was unlike anything they had ever seen. But it wasn't just a monster. It was something more, something engineered for a purpose. "What do we know about this place?" Lisa asked, her voice steady but firm. One of the scientists, a young woman named Emily, stepped forward. "The facility was once part of a research project. An experiment, I think. We've only scratched the surface of its true purpose, but there are records of genetic modifications. They were creating something powerful." Lisa's blood ran cold. Powerful. Emily nodded, her eyes wide. Yes, it's not just a creature. It's a weapon. A weapon. Lisa's mind spun with the implications of that revelation. They weren't just trapped in a lab filled with horrors. They were trapped in the birthplace of an abomination. A weapon designed to destroy, to conquer, to kill. And they were now its prey. Before Lisa could process what Emily had said, the door behind them rattled. The creature had found them. With a deafening crash, the door was torn from its hinges. The creature lunged forward, its glowing red eyes fixed on them. Lisa didn't hesitate. She fired. The creature howled in pain, its monstrous body writhing as the bullets hit its skin, but they didn't seem to do much damage. It was like shooting at armor. The creature was impervious. "We need to get out," Lisa shouted. Now, they scrambled for the exit, but the creature was relentless. It moved with terrifying speed, cutting them off as they attempted to flee. Lisa fired again, but her shots were futile against the creature's hulking form. "Go," she yelled at her team. "I'll hold it off." Lisa's heart raced as she tried to buy them time. She could hear her team retreating, but she couldn't leave yet. She needed to find a way to stop this thing, this weapon. The creature lunged at her again, but this time, she was ready. She ducked under its swipe and rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding its claws. It snarled in frustration, its massive body shifting and twitching as it prepared for another attack. Lisa knew she couldn't keep this up forever. Her ammo was running out, and the creature seemed to be getting stronger with every strike. But she couldn't give up. Not now. Desperation fueled her as she scanned the room for anything she could use. Her eyes locked on a control panel in the corner. She ran toward it, her legs burning with every step, and slammed her hand onto the buttons. The machinery hummed to life, and for a brief moment, Lisa felt a flicker of hope. A large metal door in the far corner of the room slid open, revealing a long hallway that led to what she hoped was an exit. Without thinking twice, she sprinted toward the door, but the creature was right behind her. Its growl echoed through the room, and Lisa pushed herself harder, the adrenaline pumping through her veins. She reached the door just as the creature swiped at her, but this time, she was faster. She dove through the doorway and slammed it shut behind her, just as the creature's claws scraped against the metal. For a moment, there was silence. Lisa's chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. They were safe for now, but she knew this was far from over. She turned to her team, who were waiting at the other end of the hallway. "Keep moving," she ordered. "We need to find a way to destroy this thing before it destroys us." The hunt was just beginning, and Lisa had no intention of being the hunted. The final stand. The metallic hallways echoed with the sound of heavy footsteps. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest as she led her team through the maze of corridors. Every turn felt like it could be their last. The creature, whatever it truly was relentless. It had chased them through the labyrinth, its primal rage and hunger making it an unstoppable force. "Lisa," Emily called, her voice trembling. "What are we going to do? We can't keep running forever." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "We can't, but we need to keep moving until we find something. Anything that can give us an edge." The team's morale was sinking. They were exhausted. Every member had faced fear and terror, but they couldn't show it. If they broke, they would fall to the same fate as the others. They had to keep pushing forward. "Lisa, over here." One of the soldiers, Mark, shouted as he pointed to a large control room ahead. The door was slightly ajar, and the dim light from within flickered. Lisa gave a curt nod and gestured for everyone to move quickly. They dashed toward the room, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the thick air. As they entered, they were met with rows of terminal screens and old equipment. Dust layered every surface, but there was a certain coldness to the room, as though it had been waiting for them. The creature's growl reverberated down the hallway behind them. It wasn't far. They had moments. Lisa's eyes scanned the room, searching for anything that could help them survive. She didn't know much about the technology here, but she had a gut feeling. They needed to find a weapon, something that could stop the creature long enough for them to escape. "I'll check the control panel," Emily said, her hands trembling but determination still in her voice. Lisa nodded. "Hurry." They worked quickly, Emily typing frantically at the console, trying to decipher the old language. Her fingers flew over the keys, but the creature's growls grew louder, and the walls seemed to tremble with each step it took. They had no time. "We need to hurry," Mark said, his voice filled with anxiety. "It's getting closer." Emily glanced up from the screen, her face pale. "I think I've found something. There's a weapon, a failsafe, set up deep within the facility. But the only way to activate it is to get to the main reactor core. If we can reach it, we might have a chance." Lisa didn't hesitate. "We'll do it. We don't have another choice." The team knew this was their last shot. Their only hope for survival lay in the reactor core. But getting there wouldn't be easy. The creature was fast, and it was smart. It was hunting them down like prey, and it knew they were on the run. "We move out now," Lisa commanded. "Stick together, and don't stop. We're getting to that reactor." The team braced themselves, each taking a deep breath as they prepared for the next stage of their fight for survival. The air was thick with the scent of fear, but Lisa couldn't afford to let that get to her. She had led them this far, and she wasn't going to falter now. The corridor ahead seemed endless, its walls closing in on them as they sprinted down it. The creature was close. Lisa could hear it growling, scratching, drawing nearer. The fear that had been festering in her chest for hours now threatened to overwhelm her, but she pushed it down. They reached a large bulkhead door at the end of the hallway. Lisa didn't wait for anyone to speak. She slammed her hand against the control panel, but the door remained stubbornly locked. "Not again," Mark growled, frustration creeping into his voice. "Step aside," Lisa ordered. "I'll get it." She was no stranger to using brute force. She smashed her shoulder into the door, and after several tries, it creaked open. The room beyond was large and industrial, lined with enormous machines and tubes that hummed with electricity. Emily stepped forward, looking at the central control panel with awe. This is it, the reactor core. But before they could react, the creature made its presence known. The walls shook, and the ground trembled as the creature burst through the hallway behind them, its massive form silhouetted against the dim lighting. Lisa's heart raced. The creature was here. "Go!" Lisa shouted to her team. "Get to the core." The team moved into the reactor room, each person rushing to their assigned positions. Emily was already at the control panel, her fingers moving with precision. Lisa glanced back one last time. The creature was mere feet away, its claws clicking against the floor as it advanced. The door to the reactor room slammed shut behind them, sealing them in. There was no going back now. It was do or die. "Ready," Emily said, her voice calm despite the chaos. Lisa gave a sharp nod. "Do it." In that moment, time seemed to slow. Emily pressed the button to activate the failsafe, and the entire facility seemed to come alive. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and the floor beneath them rumbled with energy. Lisa turned to face the creature one final time. It snarled, its glowing eyes locked on her, but the countdown had already begun. The reactor core was going to explode, and there was no way out. The creature's final roar echoed through the facility as the ground beneath them began to shake. The last thing Lisa saw before the explosion engulfed them was the creature's massive form, finally realizing it had been too late. The end had come. But for Lisa and her team, it was the only chance they had. The aftermath. The explosion hit with the force of 1,000 storms. The entire facility shuddered, and the world seemed to collapse into a deafening silence. The roar of the reactor's detonation echoed through the corridors, carrying a promise of destruction and finality. Lisa's vision blurred as the shockwave knocked her to the ground. The force of the blast rattled her bones, and for a moment, everything was dark. Her body felt heavy, the weight of the entire battle pressing down on her chest. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was smoke, thick, choking clouds that filled the air. The reactor room, once filled with towering machines and buzzing technology, was now a twisted wreckage of steel and burning debris. The walls, scorched and cracked, seemed to groan under the weight of their own collapse. "Lisa, are you okay?" Emily's voice broke through the haze, a lifeline in the chaos. Lisa struggled to sit up, her body aching. She could hear the sound of her team's labored breathing, but she couldn't see them clearly yet. The smoke made it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. "Where's the creature?" Lisa rasped, her throat raw from the explosion's heat. Emily coughed, then answered, "Gone. It's over. I think we did it." Lisa forced herself to stand, her legs shaky beneath her. She staggered toward the wreckage of the reactor core, her gaze scanning the debris for any signs of the creature. But there was nothing. The creature had been engulfed in the explosion, and the blast had completely obliterated any trace of it. "Is everyone here?" Lisa asked, her voice still hoarse but filled with determination. Mark appeared from the smoke, his face grim but alive. "We're all here, Lisa. We made it." But there was no time to celebrate. The aftermath of the explosion was still unfolding. The entire facility was unstable, and they couldn't afford to linger. They needed to leave, and they needed to leave now. "Everyone, move out. We've got to get to the escape pods," Lisa ordered, her voice strong despite the exhaustion that weighed heavily on her. "This place is coming down." The team wasted no time. They had no illusions about their survival. This was no victory. It was a temporary reprieve. They were still trapped deep inside a crumbling facility, and the countdown for their escape had begun. As they made their way through the collapsing corridors, the building around them seemed to groan, as though it too had given its final scream. The walls shook, pieces of the ceiling falling away like shattered glass. Dust and debris filled the air, but Lisa kept her focus on the path ahead. "There's no turning back now," Mark muttered, his hand tightly gripping his weapon. "We're almost there," Lisa said, determination hardening her voice. "Keep moving." Every step felt like an eternity. The way to the escape pods was long and treacherous, filled with twists and turns through darkened corridors. It was a race against time as the facility slowly collapsed, its life support systems failing and the emergency alarms blaring. They reached the final stretch, an enormous chamber where the escape pods were stored. Lisa breathed a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. The door to the pod bay was locked. "Not now," Emily whispered, fear in her voice. "Get to work," Lisa snapped. "We're not dying here." Emily moved quickly to the console, her hands shaking as she entered the codes. The countdown was already ticking in the back of Lisa's mind. The facility would be gone in minutes, and they couldn't afford to waste any time. The door to the pod bay slid open with a loud hiss, and the team rushed inside. The escape pods were already powered up, ready for launch. But Lisa's heart clenched. They weren't out of danger yet. The blast had done its job, but the facility was still crumbling, and there were no guarantees that the pods would even make it. "Get in, now," Lisa barked. Each team member climbed into a pod, and Lisa took the last one. As the door sealed behind her, she took one last look at the collapsing facility through the small viewing window. The walls were breaking apart, and she could see the firestorm that had consumed the reactor spreading through the structure. With a sharp hiss, the pod's engines ignited, and they were launched into space, hurtling away from the destruction below. The entire facility seemed to explode in one final burst of light, its debris scattering in every direction. Lisa leaned back in her seat, breathing heavily, her heart still racing. They had made it. They had survived. But as the stars outside the pod's viewport became clearer, Lisa knew that the battle was far from over. The galaxy had just been given a taste of humanity's strength, but there were countless challenges ahead. Their victory had come at a cost, And there were still more horrors lurking in the depths of space. The worst was yet to come.